Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about that new Suicide Boys album entitled The Long-Term Effects of Suffering. And the word suffering is written in all caps. This is the latest album from duo Suicide Boys. Dropped not that long ago, but I've listened to it maybe twice so far. And, the deal. Just going to go right into it. Highlights, play-by-plays, I guess. This album is has a total of 13 songs on it. And I'm just gonna preface this by saying I think this album is maybe their most ambitious project so far. I feel like their most recent, maybe like their last two albums, were a little bit underwhelming personally. For me, I felt like they could have been something a little bit more ambitious, and I think that this album was them as a collective. This album features not only Ruby and Scrim, but also other vocalists and other performers as well. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I think that this album is, them trying to step in a new direction and kind of create something new. So without further ado, track number one is entitled Degeneration in the key of A minor. Pretty interesting. Oh, also, this album has really interesting song titles, which I thought was pretty cool. Them trying to, stand out. I get it. Anyway, track number one, Degeneration in the key of A minor. Honestly, not a huge fan of the drum samples that were used in this song. I didn't feel like the kick and the snare meshed really well, but I can be kind of nitpicky sometimes. So I do applaud, them exploring new vocal styles, new different pitches, inflections. I know Suicide Boy, if you've ever heard their music, they have a very distinct sound, and whenever you put a Suicide Boys on, you kind of know exactly what you're in for. And I feel like this song, along with others on this project, kind of were moving in a different direction, a step in a different direction. So I thought that was cool. It was refreshing to hear. It's not their typical delivery either. The instrumental honestly wasn't anything crazy, but it did give me the sense that this project was going to be different. So there's that. Track number two, entitled If Self-Destruction Was an Olympic Sport, I'd Be Tanya Harding. Another cool title. The instrumental is really sick on this one. I love the crunchy bass that's featured on this song. The vocals are gritty, fun to feel, like sonically they feel cool to listen to. I like that. And there were some new flows that I'm not used to hearing from them. And I think that those vocals and flows were a compliment to, the fresh sonic landscape that I was hearing throughout this song. And honestly, I gotta say, some good sample choice, especially the snippet towards the end. There's a little bit of, some backstory there. I highly recommend kind of looking into it if you want to get a better sense of why they chose the samples that they did and why they put everything together in the way that they did. I thought that was interesting. Track number three, Life is But a Stream. This is more of a laid-back kind of song. There's a really calming guitar sample, and the key is a lot more, I guess, serene. So very different. The trademark triplet flow that, listeners are used to hearing from Suicide Boys makes a reappearance on this song. Ruby sounds like he usually does, but I think his performance was pretty solid. There is some singing from him that I'm not used to hearing from Ruby the Cherry, but I thought that it was cool and it felt appropriate for the song. So honestly, I enjoyed it. Track number four, 5 Grand at 8 to 1. There's a really lovely trumpet sample that was used on this song, and that let me know that, it kind of cues the listener to expect a really laid-back tune, which is exactly what it was. The flows were really syncopated on this song, and they give the song a ton of groove. It feels like the rappers are gliding on the beat, and I like that. That's cool. Really nice. Track number 5, We Envy Nothing in the World. The instrumental leans heavily into the realm and aesthetics of horrorcore, which I know Suicide Boys have kind of not spoken against, but they have tried to make it very clear in the past that they don't align. They don't believe that their music aligns with the subgenre that is horrorcore, and they don't identify with the aesthetics of it or whatever, but it kind of is. The song is very atonal and dissonant, so Not an easy instrumental to listen. I mean, it's not like conventionally what you would expect to hear um, in, I guess, in most of their music. So I thought it was a nice change of pace, definitely priming me to expect something different, as I've said before. I'm not a big fan of the vocals on this song, but I did enjoy the flows that I heard throughout it. Moving on to track number 6, "Lighting the Flames of My Own Personal Hell." Towards the at the intro, you can hear a sample of the out of service message when you're dialing a number, and that tone, that they've sampled this before. I think they're incorporating some of those samples here on this project and in this song in a way to kind of expand, create kind of like a sense of lore and immersion. So that was interesting to hear. There was an interesting filter used on the sample vocals that was weird, really dry, and I don't know that it mixed super well with the rest of the song, but I understand that it would have helped to ensure the listener's ability to hear the performers clearly, and the vocals that would be laid over the track. So I understand the logistical reasons that it was mixed in the way that it was. And so, honestly, as a result, the vocals did shine because of these production choices, and they did come out a little bit more cleanly. The song was really short, and it kind of felt like it was over as soon as it began, so it didn't leave a huge impression on me. Moving on to track number 7, entitled "New Profile Pic." This song has a melancholic key. There's some really cool, almost like psychedelic transitions throughout the song. It's got a really weird feel. I don't know how to describe it other than lots of delay and messing around with reverb and different samples coming in and out of your ears as you're listening to the song. It was a cool experience, and I think this one was another one of those songs on the album that felt a little bit refreshing to hear from them. Definitely. Moving on to track number 8. This one's entitled "Bleach." I don't know that this song left a huge impact on me. The only notes that I have written on it is that I enjoyed the mixing on the vocals, and last time I heard this album was like 2 days ago, so I can't remember anything else off the top of my head. So if you like this song and I didn't have much to say about it, I am sorry. Moving on to track number 9, entitled "Forget It." There's some high-pitched vocals on this song, throughout the song, honestly, that kind of flirt with like the aesthetics and like the sonic feel of hyperpop, and I thought that was an interesting decision for them to make. Was not expecting that at all. But the song doesn't go fully into hyperpop, so there's that. The filters and the processing on the vocals, offer the listener a totally different experience than what they would normally expect to hear on a Suicide Boys song. So there's that. It was kind of like looking at an ocean, and you're expecting it to be blue, but instead it's pink for some reason. The instrumental felt really colorful, really psychedelic. It's an interesting song that I wasn't expecting at all, but it was cool to listen to. Track number 10, "Avalon." This one has a really dark instrumental, tonally speaking, but really bright colors present throughout the song in terms of like samples used, and what's the word? Timbres used in some of the synths on the song. So a really interesting mix of different kinds of like textures, I guess is the way I can describe it. There's a lot of wet reverb on the samples, which create this really airy sensation, really spacious. It feels like you're in a really big room that's expanding and getting contracting and compacting or whatever. It's really weird. And I thought it was perfect, in my opinion, because when it comes to Suicide Boys, their vocals tend to be really dry. So they sit right in the center of the mix, and you've got the rest of the song going around in the background. That was cool. I like that. I like that approach to production. And I know that not a lot of people may agree with me that sometimes Suicide Boys songs can be produced decently. I've heard a lot of complaints that their music is not mixed very well, and I get it. I do get it. Moving on to track number 11. This one's entitled "Materialism as a Means to an End." This song has got a really heavy kick, and the bass is like knocking. There's some detuned bells, and there's like choir sounds heard in the background as well. It creates a pretty spooky soundscape. I do like that. It felt like a refreshing and updated version of the classic sound that you would expect to hear from Suicide Boys. Um, and I think that this might be my favorite song on the album. Didn't have much else to say outside of that. I just liked it. Track number 12, entitled Ugliest. This one kind of caught me off guard with the boom bap beat and groove that it had going to it. Going for it. And I thought the vocals complement the beat perfectly. That's all I got to say there. And then lastly, to conclude the album, track number 13, entitled The Number You Have Dialed Is Not in Service. I think that this may be the most reflective and introspective song that I've heard from the duo yet. It was melancholic, but simultaneously, thematically, it felt like a really uplifting and strong conclusion to what was an interesting album. Sonically, I wasn't a big fan of the production style, but at this of this specific song. But I mean, at this point, since it is the closer, I feel like I was kind of okay with that. I'm like, you know what, it's almost over. Might not be the most sonically pleasant song, but it's cool. So to conclude, honestly, I had low expectations going into this album. The last two albums, as I mentioned before, kind of felt like more of the same. Nothing was really standing out to me much. And I wasn't really sure what would be next, what the next step would be for Suicide Boys. But it feels like, after listening to this project, it feels like Suicide Boys and the G59 collective as a whole have made some effort to build lore, characters, and which make different appearances throughout the album, by the way. I can respect that the work and the craft of trying to create a narrative that's overarching and it blends everything together and everything is a different piece of the same story or whatever. I think it was fun to listen to, and as you listen to albums like this and ones that are done maybe a little bit better, it's cool to try to piece everything together as you're listening to it and trying to understand what everything means and the significance behind every decision that was made in production and recording and in songwriting, of course. I think there was a lot of different flavors and colors that were packed into this album, which makes it stand out from the rest of their discography, to me at least. And I honestly, full disclosure, I haven't listened to everything that they've put out. They have a pretty extensive discography, so I haven't listened to every single album or every mixtape, everything that they've made. But I've listened to a majority of it, and I think that this one is the most interesting one to listen to, especially when considering the most recent albums that they've put out. So I feel like this album does stand as a testament to their ability to experiment, their ability to create new experiences, which is something that I think most would argue against. I've heard the complaint that a lot of their music sounds the same. A lot of their music is kind of bland at this point, since we've been hearing it for so long. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool, and I respect that they were trying to package a new experience that maybe most listeners were not expecting to hear. So overall, I thought it was a pretty okay album, and it wasn't bad by any means. I just felt a little bit disappointed by the previous two. They were a bit underwhelming, so this one was a pleasant surprise. So, yeah. I guess that concludes everything I had to say about the album, but if you've got any music that you would like to share with me, please do. I'm always looking out for new stuff to listen to. I always enjoy the sensation that I get when I'm exploring something new, and I'm like, wow, this is a new rabbit hole that I can't wait to go down. So definitely looking forward to that. And yeah, if you've watched this video up until this point, thank you. I really appreciate that. And let me know what I should be listening to and talking to about next. So thank you. Have a good day.